given them money to support unemployment programming. And so at one point, our bill was like $30,000-$40,000, and then it got cut in half, and then it went down again. And so finally, 46,2981, that's like 2 years worth of unemployment costs, which is just bizarre when it comes down to it. All right, one more big one here, Wenger Corporation. That one is for risers for our choir room. So they're foldable risers that they can move around. They can use them for concerts if they want to,
They use
or
them every day right now.
yeah, they're
Very nice.
They're chairs, they're standing, they're all the things. So that's one of the things we opened up off of the wish list. So
Probably save us from a workers' comp with the old ones. Tons of weight.
sorry, that took a little while, but that list of payments is actually more than twice the amount from the previous month. So
Problem. Now we have reports and presentations. Superintendent, you want to take a motion on that? Sorry about that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Myself.
Krista, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Good.
Reports and presentations, Superintendent Goble.
So I'll just stay on the with the grant. So like Bradley said, we had the grant that we with the nurse. So Barb and I and Bradley met, and we along with that purification, we also bought some things that she's going to be able to use in her office, and some things that'll be beneficial for us even in the long run on a lot of things. So that's a good thing. Along with that, you know, this last week we sent out these two forms to our parents. One is for the field trips, and the other one's for the classes that the teachers will be doing this summer. You can tell the ones who are doing are pretty excited about it. A lot of it sounds like we don't have it. They were due today. We know there might be a few stragglers, but we don't know the exact number of kids that are going to be taking part in it. But I think it's going to be, we'll be delighted by the numbers. I know that, like I said, the teachers, so things around the cities, and then some of the classes that are going to be taking place. So pretty excited about that. And then on top of that, we still have the other remaining COVID grants that are out there. And I saw a report by, I think, the Washington Post or something like that, that a lot of schools are still trying to create ways to, across the nation, try to spend that. So we're being proactive in how we spend that and so that we can sustain whatever we use that money on. Fire marshal visit. I don't remember if I spoke with this last month, but there were a couple of things that came back with us. Was very pleased. Corey and I, like I said, we're very pleased with his thoroughness. Tom, I believe his name. So we learned a lot. And so the vast majority of those things have been taken care of. And they'll be in the long run, keep our building safe. A few weeks ago, we had our juniors head to the SMAC building for a career day. The students had a very interesting, good time with that. Some of the questions that I asked of the juniors, that some were like, yep, kind of solidified. I got some interest in this field. And then some were like, it wasn't interested, nothing there interests me. So I know that's not an area that I want to go into. But it was across SMAC, it was well received by, it's a growing program and quite pleased with how it's going. We are still working on the schedule for next year. I don't think we realized how difficult putting the puzzle together for a middle school model and how the specials really play a role in it. But we are quite confident that just a few tweaks we'll be able to roll that out to the teachers either this weekend or early next week. So pretty excited about the thing, just having, you know, how to determine lunches, how to determine the specials. I think it's going to be very beneficial for the kids, and even having the teachers, you know, the middle school team to have common prep time so they can have time to actually meet with them as a group. Even the specials having some of that stuff so they can meet if ever need be with us. Seniors, Friday is their last day. They'll be doing the handprints on the wall and then their walk, along with graduation ceremony practice. And the next Friday is graduation. So it's amazing how that snuck up on me as a dad, but it'll be here before we know it. And 7 o'clock start, community is welcomed. The teachers are pretty, actually, the entire staff is pretty excited about taking part that night. Not everybody will be there, but I know they're, some of them will be playing in the band that afternoon for the ceremony themselves, but they'll also be standing there welcoming the kids as they walk in. Want to thank the parents. We've had a very interesting year with busing. Our spring has been, a few months ago, I was at an AD conference or AD meeting with the conference and listening to all their ADs talk about the busing situations. I think I talked about that in our previous board meeting and how fortunate I felt. Well, it hit us. So kudos to all of our drivers, the bus drivers for, again, and the parents who remain flexible on those days when we're changing the blue day. Just yesterday, was it yesterday or Monday? Dave had to jump in and drive.
That was yesterday.
Was that yesterday? So it was, so kudos to, everyone for helping out. And that takes me,
We have more opportunities for that too.
He loves it that much.
especially we'll give you a yellow vehicle. He's not listening. And then the last thing, I sent you guys an email yesterday, a copy of what I sent out to the teachers, or the entire staff. And I encourage parents to go to that, to look up, I'm talking about the Care 11 piece in the cities where they talk about, the new norm that has come about, and it's not scary, but just it's alarming, the struggles that the students are going through, that they got used to the pandemic world of being online and not being at school, and just the readjustment and how the staff members, this piece was about the teachers, but how the entire staff, the struggle of, I think we were anticipating this year to be so much better than last year because we thought last year was so difficult, but in a sense, last year was just so obscure that we just didn't know what was coming next. Now I think that we had a desire to be normal, and when either the students or just the things that are going on don't meet that expectations, it's exhausting. And I'm not even talking about just Lyle, I'm talking about across the nation. So I just am very appreciative as we wrap up a year, to everyone within the building, starting from you guys to Bradley, I wrote some of them down, to teachers, paras, kitchen staff, bus drivers, van drivers, custodians, office staff, Bill, the coaches, and just anyone who's volunteered, how much we've learned how to become flexible, resilient. We've learned how to, have faith in each other and the students. And I think this is a defining moment, I think, in education of this summer. I know a lot of people, there's reports that people aren't going to come back in the education field, and it's scary. We still, we've filled every position right now, teaching wise, except our special ed. And it's scary. We get asked almost daily, what's the status? And we're not sure what's going to happen. I know once August, we're going to be much more panicky, but because we're our backs against the wall. But this has been, a challenging year, but I think it's defining who we are as a Lyle school. I think the strategic plan that we talk about in a little bit is going to help us or guide our ship a little bit. But I think it has proven that when we all come together as a community, we can do great things for the kids. And I think we model a lot of that behavior for our kids. And today was a great testament with the all school prom, the excitement of the kids dressing up, and it was a day of fun for them that they'll remember for a lifetime. So I appreciate everybody that's taking part in this year in this team effort. So that's all I have.
All right. You want me to talk about that? All right. I want to say it was last week, but you know what? It was probably 2-3 weeks ago at this rate. Preschool registration went out. And I just spoke with Mrs. Rice today, and all of the spots are almost full. Some classes are full. So our preschool enrollment is just smooth sailing right now, which is really exciting. So I'm gonna be putting out something new. I'm waiting till Friday that get your registration in, because there's going to be people that we won't have spots for. So we're turning, like, that's probably something we haven't done in a long time, is have to turn people away. It's a good thing and a sad thing at the same time. I was also going to put a plug out there, Jamie, you touched on it with transportation, but Dawn has spent a ton of time. So a huge thank you to you, Dawn, because it's been very stressful with things that are completely out of our control that have happened, and we're just short drivers, and she is in there constant. I don't know how your brain works around like that to figure out the transportation, but you do it. So you do it. It's great. We have 7 school days left. Crazy to say that out loud, but we have 7 school days left. We had the all school prom today. We have field day tomorrow. We have senior walk. We have fun day. Is that it? Awards day or award ceremony. All of it's coming. All of the things, all of the fun. We have 2 students in 8th grade who earned 500 reading points, and this is throughout their academic career so far. So it's like this huge deal. And they wanted to have a pajama day, and it's a school pajama day as like a fun celebration for it. And I was asking some elementary teachers what would be a good day to have this, like, just, it does cause disruption. And they said Friday, let's do Friday. And I asked this on Monday, and they said, because tomorrow's our last normal day of the week. So yesterday was the last normal day. Isn't that crazy to think about? When you think about I mean, it's a lot of excitement, but that's going off of what you talked about with the Care 11. It's our kids don't know how to go from the structure to the fun, and back to the structure and back to the fun. It's really hard on them. So I'm excited for it. Excited for these next few days. Yeah, we have lots of summer plans going on. I'm finally going to touch base on that curriculum cycle, because we have new curriculum that has been arriving. Yay. So excited. So excited for that.
One box at a time for that math stuff, right?
It literally is,
Yeah.
like 2 books at a time, but it's coming. It's coming.
Okay, items for action and discussion. Strategic planning update.
All right, in your packet, you have the updated color version of our strategic plan. We met May 2nd, and we went through and made final recommendations. So I went through and made some changes. So this is the latest and greatest. Couple things we requested of you is to eventually, it doesn't necessarily have to be tonight, but sometime in the future, to pass a resolution to approve this. If there's any tweaks that need to happen, we can continue to do that, but once we approve it, then it's kind of our goal or roadmap for the next few years. And then the other thing is to develop some goals that follow along for me as the superintendent, and then the board as well. So I think that may be something that maybe over the next month, once school ends, at our next board, and we maybe set the goals. We could do that again tonight if you guys wanted. Like I said, I'm pretty excited about getting to work on this, and I know the 3 of us will be the ones putting this in motion and making sure that it happens. So
It's awesome. So good.
Do you guys want to wait and approve this at a later date, or? Yeah, okay.
okay.
Consider approval of the contract proposal with IEA for 2023 through 2025.
I will start. I don't know if you actually have a copy. It's this here version. IEA is the company that comes in and reviews our safety procedures. They work closely with Joel on making sure, all safety aspects from trips and falls and all kinds of different things. So they're kind of our pre-OSHA people. They come in and make sure that we are following the rules. So if OSHA or the fire marshal comes in, we got all our ducks in a row. So this is a pretty standard, it is an increase from, I can't remember, was it 3%? Increase
Something
from
like
previous
that.
thing, so I easily could have just signed it, but I wanted to at least bring it to your attention so that you were aware of it, and then we could approve it. And so Craig is wonderful to work with. He works with two of us and Joel, and he's looking out for our district when he's here.
Need a motion to consider the approval of the contract with IEA.
Make a motion to approve it.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider options for the fax room.
Yeah, forgot the thought. So at a recent leadership meeting, they brought to Corey and the teachers, we had a good conversation about the fax room. You know, we've had discussions over the last, since I've been here for 5 years, about what to do with it. Obviously, when this building was built, we probably had a teacher and it was used regularly.
Then she retired like the next year.
The absolute difficulty of finding a teacher in that field, nearly impossible. Now, could we get a teacher on a special assignment for that? Possibly, or we have used it little by little over the years. But one of the teachers made a very good point. Either we invest in it, we buy new ovens, we invest in the equipment, including sewing machines, pots and pans, things like that, because it's kind of been running with legs the last few years, or we convert it to a classroom and use it as every other classroom. I don't know which way to go. I know a couple years ago, after they axed this bus, the semi, I recommended that we turn it into a classroom. After the board, you guys, said, no, we want it as the fax room. We did our best effort, and I think it's been utilized more since then, but it's still not utilized. So I think I wanted to have this conversation with you guys on what would you guys like as a speaking for the community.
I know some of the staff do use it.
Yes.
For certain.
Yeah.
Classroom like activities,
Mhm.
which I think seems like the kids enjoy when that happens. But is it not very often I mean,
I think maybe 20 days this year.
That would be a lot.
Yeah, that's that.
Every time I walk past it, it's empty.
yeah.
You're saying 20 days where it's used for an hour at a time.
Correct.
Yeah.
So 20 hours, not 170 times 7.
And even then, you'd still want to update it a little
Yeah.
bit.
Right.
Because there's one oven that is shot.
Probably isn't all that safe.
Right.
Yeah, there's one that's shot. We don't even turn that one on. And
So if we were to move away from having it as a fax room, like what would go in there?
well, here's the hard part. I think.
Corey's office.
No.
Mm.
Well,
My office.
one idea has been thrown around is using as an art room.
It's really
It-
hot in that art room.
It is.
I'm just gonna put that
Speaking
out
from
there.
it,
Oh my God.
that we even talked about last school summer was blocking some of the kitchen stuff off and just turning it into our room, but then it just doesn't, then you have to move everything just to use it for that. Do we need the room this coming year for space? Not necessarily. Would we use it if it was a regular classroom? Yeah, we would, but we've grown accustomed to not using it as a classroom.
So what's in the art room now? Like the old art room, where the
So
semi came
that's,
through?
the Spanish room has been using it this year. We are going to, a lot of those rooms on that will be the middle school classrooms. So we're gonna do there will be some rooms that will be switched
So
around.
Spanish is in the old art room.
Right. But we're gonna most likely be moving him. Because again, it's limited, the number of hours he's using that room as well,
Right.
so.
So those two rooms that are next to each other.
Yep. And Mr. Badir uses the room next to that the other room that was impacted by the semi.
Yeah,
So, um,
Okay.
it's hard to, I don't know, we'd use it as a classroom. I mean, we could, like I said, we could use it as our
I
room.
think we're all of a generation where that was part of our education. And we, as adults and as parents, see the value
Mhm.
in it.
Mhm.
However, we're not having anyone teaching it.
Mhm.
And we all think it's heartbreaking. Okay, so I did the royal we, but I
I
kind of
agree.
get this feeling that
Yeah.
we all feel that it's heartbreaking that these children are growing up and having never learned any of these basic concepts on how to cook for themselves, how to mend something, how to do anything, grocery shop, things like that. They're now officially adults, but they don't have any of those life skills. But from the standpoint of we need to utilize the rooms that we have in an appropriate way. And it would have to have a lot of money dumped into it.
Yeah,
For-
and
and-
when you're walking
Minimum
by it all the
use.
time and it's just empty, that's
And
just.
and we may or may not have someone teaching class.
Yeah.
Or ever.
Right.
I mean, first of all, you
Any
gotta,
applicants?
yeah, you could hire a teacher, but you gotta find a teacher with those skills.
Skills,
Yeah.
even if we would
That's
do
that's a very
yes.
unique, and that's phasing out too,
Well,
because.
people don't sew anymore.
Well, if the kids aren't learning it in school, they're not,
Well, they're
Yeah.
they're watching
They're not gonna-
YouTube videos.
they're not gonna go to
teaching
college
themselves at home,
to
and They're not
learn
gonna
it
go to
and-
school for that.
Right. I'm just,
So.
You're right.
Well, I'll tell you too, I never had a fax class myself, but I was a bachelor for quite a long time and fed myself.
and you're still here?
I'm still here.
Ramen noodles and mac and cheese.
Gained plenty of weight in that time too, there was no starving.
Cereal and milk.
So there are other ways to get those life skills.
I,
Which I think is a little bit
Yeah.
what some of the other teachers have been trying to, how to, not that many people have checkbooks, but maybe how to live by a budget. And I think some of them are trying to put a little of those skills into.
but we don't need a fax room for
But we
that.
don't-
And they are.
Exactly.
They absolutely don't.
I mean, so that's kind of where I'm meeting, where.
And that was,
We were like, oh, but don't get rid of it, but
Maybe
really,
it's time to get
and Krista, that was
it
what
might be
the
time.
teachers talked about. They were being creative in that meeting about, I could do this in my classroom and some of the, there's two of the teachers that have a project where they're both working together on the same project, looking at different subjects, unrelated to the fax room, but they are cooperating, working together on some of those. And using the fax room on certain things. I know Mr. Hagan loves, he goes in with his senior class and does, but it's just not. The problem, what was for him, he's saying is going in there. Well, if I have to use the fax room right now, and I know that there may not be a pot for every group, then I have to bring something from home to use.
Yeah.
And so they're spending time out of in sometimes their own resources to recover some of those. So that's why
And you
if
can
we
see
have
value
it,
there.
we need to invest in it, or
Yeah.
Well,
Because we can sure buy a pot.
But because it's not done, used so frequently, even the basic food, like the essential items for food, like in the kitchen, like brown sugar, flour, salt, pepper, those types of things,
Oh,
the
yeah,
oils.
right.
You would think we would be
Yeah.
able to have that at the beginning of the year and just leave it there and it would last, but because it's not used consistently,
Yeah.
it goes.
it's not there.
Yeah.
Isn't that stuff you stock with the kitchen, that you filled all the kitchen?
It's separate.
But it's still
use,
not,
so,
it still would never be
Separate.
used,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't be able to use their stuff because that's under for the food thing, but.
Well,
I think it
maybe
might
it's
be
just
time.
time.
Yeah, I think Krista said it well. That's exactly what my thought, but
And
I hate
think
to see it
the
go,
committee
but.
will Go, no, we can't get rid of the fax room, but really, we haven't used it in
There's
so
no-
long.
There's no teacher.
Right.
No.
And
It hasn't
And
been
it's not
used since we
consistent.
went into the building. We might have used it 1 year
Mhm.
and then that lady retired. Maybe 1 year.
If it makes you feel any better, I know other districts are struggling to find a fax teacher because they want to
Oh,
hang on true.
yeah.
But they can't because honestly, I don't even know if they're making that a licensure anymore. It's all
Probably not.
licensure.
Right.
I think
I don't know.
there's one school within SMAC that I know that has a licensed teacher for fax, but. I know they would never be willing to share, just
No.
because
Right.
how that person's not gonna come over for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And I commend the instructor, the teachers that are trying to incorporate that into their classroom, because that could just augment so many different projects in so many ways, but
Mhm.
yeah, I get it. You know,
Well, I
Mr.
wonder-
Green's hesitancy to do that because we don't have it stocked.
Could we, if we could still incorporate some of those things, we could get hot plates that could be used if they do have some cooking things that. If they're doing a project, then students use that in a classroom, or they could set up in a separate, in that room when it's a regular classroom.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just look at those staff members that have projects that they're really devoted to, like, really, really enjoy doing and want to do, and the kids enjoy doing, and we figure out how we can.
But isn't
do
that real life right
creatively.
there? That's the real life piece anyway, because how many of these kids are gonna move off on their own and not necessarily have access to all these different tools, so they have to be creative on how they prepare
Right,
things.
yeah.
So
and-
if those teachers have ideas that they really want to go forth and as they're developing their curriculum for the upcoming year, have them just send not even a formal proposal, just something that says, hey, I think I want to do this project. I would need these things. And we can look at getting that, then storing that. That's what, a couple of totes? Okay, really, really big totes, but whatever.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be too bad for storage either.
So a couple of questions. If we do, if we turn that into a classroom, we have to ask the question of turning it into what? I don't recall, do you remember underneath those middle rooms after that room got flooded? I can't remember where the tile underneath those middle columns. You remember? I don't know if it was. That if they're not conducive to sitting at,
No.
you're sitting at your desk like
Yeah.
this, if those are ever a desk. So if we turn it into a classroom, do we remove all that stuff, or could it turn into the art room? I think Teresa is,
She would love.
she would love that.
Oh,
It would be bigger, and the sinks are there.
needs bigger.
She needs
Um,
more sinks and
Needs
bigger.
More sinks. And
And
bigger.
bigger.
So could they leave just the outside cabinetry for her to use for her art and
Good, and then we could convert the middle pieces into some kind of,
Well, we talked about putting on rollers, those middles.
yep, we
We talked
did.
about
Right.
putting
Yep.
those on rollers, but maybe we just get rid of them and just put her, because it's like you said, it's, you can't put your feet underneath them. They're not, they're cabinets.
And they could be converted into something more practical, whatever she would need too.
Well, stand-up art desks.
Yeah.
Each
Which
one
might
of
be
Wonder if
actually
she
good for
would-
some of those kids
Yeah,
in general.
right, yeah.
But yeah, maybe
Maybe
that
you
would
keep
probably
one
be
above
the
or-
best thing, because you have sinks. You keep the ovens at work, I don't know. Or,
We actually thought about that. With the
So-
amount of clay they use, it gets pretty dusty.
Yeah.
And that's one thing to keep in mind. I mean, it does trickle out in the hallways, and not a big deal, but you were in there. It does, the floor does get, things get dusty with the clay once it dries.
But it also doesn't get cleaned.
That's yeah.
So if
And
you
so.
take out the
so-
stoves, like if you take out the stoves, could you put a couple extra like utility sinks in there in the space where the stoves are coming out?
Or storage for art
So that
projects or
she
something like that,
has more sink.
I
Uh-huh.
think
she-
And all those
She'd-
cabinets,
she'd be
oh, you
interested
just
in it.
imagine it where you take up all the doors on the cabinets and you could
Stack
have
your
storage
papers
for
and
projects and.
So if you're gonna take the art room out of the art room, what do you put in the art room?
Well, you should ask that.
Oh, really? You mean there's a more comprehensive proposal?
We haven't actually had that. I can't remember what we actually,
We
did.
talked about, was it Brock?
oh, Rock's room, go down.
oh,
there,
yeah, the health room.
Move him down there, so then you
That would make
Stuck
it
it.
huge.
Mhm.
just stuck down at that end of the building all day, he doesn't get to come up here. Keep him down there.
He would
And,
anyway.
and that would also, he's actually run into some spacing issues as well. And some of his stuff gets intermingled with the recess stuff and.
Yeah.
And.
Yeah.
He's also walking outside recess and seeing the kids playing with his stuff, so. That could be, we could have this discussion, the two of us, but I think. There are, for him, even the health room, he could put those, and the other issue that's come about is sixth grade
He's very
is 30 kids.
Yeah.
And the teachers are concerned, even with our middle school schedule, how is that gonna look next year? You can't put 30 kids in that art room. Well, you could, but
She does, but they're like.
it's, and,
It's not good.
yeah. You know.
Well, you won't be able to put them in that room either when it's a health room though. 2 years from now.
But you're not
Correct.
needing
It'll
so
be
much
different too.
space to
Right.
trying to do artwork and projects and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
And you have to have a certain amount of space. As it is, they like to kind of snuggle up next to each other so that way they can play their video games on their iPads instead of doing their work. But, you know,
And also the stuff that she has
It's
on
still
the
gotta give
outside
it
walls
space.
are there because of storage issues
Mhm.
that Brock won't need.
Right.
So we can put desks all the way up to the wall if we
Mhm,
had to,
yeah.
so
Right.
there isn't more
There will be
space.
more space without art stuff.
there's a lot of used space out of
Mhm.
not student space.
Mhm.
So,
What's in, what's stored in that? Would be the old man room off.
that is, it's been multiple things over the years, but this year it's been the COVID room.
Oh,
Thankfully, we haven't had to use it much. The elliptical stuff is in there, and mainly the biggest thing has been the movement room. So when a student needs some movement, teachers or paras bring them in there, and it is used daily for that,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
I'm talking about that in the hallway there, that.
Yeah.
Right,
Right
Yeah,
by
the-
Straight down,
kitchen?
right now, heading out towards the kitchen.
Where
Recess doors.
IMS was.
nope. So you're going in the art room,
Right, yeah.
and the office,
Oh, the little
She has
office on the
something
side.
in there.
so what's the other office for?
Jim
for
Hansen.
Hanson,
That's, okay,
it's some of his.
Okay, yeah.
And that would continue.
yeah, no, I was just
For him.
curious what,
So,
there you go.
So, but we definitely don't need a board for approval, but
No.
just thank you for your recommendation. I think we need, I
Yeah.
think we had a feeling that was gonna be where you guys felt, but we wanted to have this discussion about that, so.
You need board approval when you get the contracts for people to do the work and make all changes.
Okay, consider approving the first reading of district policy 501, school weapons policy.
The last update, I believe, is from 2014, so they came out with some changes last fall. So the main thing is just a clarification on the second page about the dangerous weapon, about more clarity of what that looks like. Honestly, when I read that, I was like, that seemed like a no-brainer, but they have to put it in writing. And then just more of just a clarification of, legal terms throughout. So if there's any questions, I can answer them, but this is the first reading that I'm asking for approval.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider approving switching the numerical policy reference number of district policies 539 to 535 and 535 to 539.
As confusing as that sounds, I'll try to make it. So when I made 535, which was our eligibility policy a couple years ago, there was no 539. Then the state came out with, or there wasn't no 35. So they came out with the service animals. So we're just basically making, it's more for me, to be honest with you, so that I can keep track of it. I'll be honest with you. So
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
All in favor?
Krista.
Carl.
Sure, yeah.
Krista Carl.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider approving the first reading of district policy 535, formerly 539, service animals in school.
this will all be clarified next month. So this one, the highlight, so there is a school in the area that has had some issues with service animals. And that school, with SMAC's help, went to the MSBA requesting some clarity, even, went to legal just to get just protection. The main issue there, and in yellow on here, is specific instructions on what is our expectations of the handler. In this situation, the handler is either a relative, even possibly a parent of that student. And so there was some issues of, okay, is this parent as the true handler, or are they coming in to observe and make suggestions for, or comments about the teacher, the instructional practice? So this is clarity on that. And the legal team felt this was the appropriate for this policy.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor? Opposed? Consider approval of the revised budget for fiscal year 2021-2022.
You got anything else to add? Just a second here, I'll get that. This pulled up. See if it's legible. It's actually kind of legible up there, all right.
Maybe, yeah, I guess you do that.
Get rid of- Later, later. All right, so I think all of you have been through multiple of my budget reports before, but what you're looking at on the left here is your fund balance categories. And then we've got our actual fund balances as of July 1st, 2021, lines up with our audit from last year. Revised budget revenues, expenditures, transfers if necessary, and then a projected fund balance for June 30th, 2022. A couple of highlights here I referenced before. The fuel costs was a big one that's kicked us pretty hard here in the spring. And when we get down to the community ed fund, it's actually kicking preschool pretty hard because we do a lot of preschool transportation. So I'm finding that even though all the pieces mostly fit, it's actually putting me in a deficit in one of the categories there because the fuel is so expensive. So we'll see where some of that shakes out too, because the number of miles that are driven is wildly different this year than it has been the previous couple of years. So it's definitely a weird budgeting year for sure.
Can I ask a really peculiar question? How do we purchase our fuel? Like, we just go to the gas station and they fill up, or do we lock it?
We don't lock it. We have an account at the co-op. What we do get though is we get refunded the excise tax. So that's sweet at least. But because it's actually a pretty shocking percentage of the price at the pump that is taxes.
Have we looked at the thought of putting in fuel barrels and
So we got,
blocking
we got-
large amounts of fuel?
we got a few barrels of buses.
Yeah.
But not.
Oh.
So,
Well,
And one of the buses is regular gas now too, not on diesel anymore.
So then,
That's the fuel barrel in the back of the building.
so then we do purchase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where my bills get really out of hand is when we have that barrel get filled up on like
Yeah.
the 2nd of the month and then again on the 27th or 28th. All of a sudden I'm pinging 2 of those.
Do they have a projected pay of, so, I just think of like what we do for our trucking. Where we're saying, I'm gonna book this amount of fuel for the next 6 months, so that way the fuel guys have an idea of how much is gonna go out, and they're thinking, "Hey, that's pretty sweet." And then
And you're doing it on diesel?
diesel and we do unleaded regular fuel.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
So then you pay the whatever it is at
It's-
that moment.
Yeah, whatever the
Uh-huh.
projected price, whatever.
So like we,
That's what bucket means.
at one point in time, we were thrilled that it's like, you're running, even though some of them were farm vehicles, but it wasn't farm fuel. It's not like it was the right fuel, but, you're driving $1.48 gas and fuel is down $3.
Yeah.
That can go and kick you in the other
Sure
way,
can.
possibility, but I don't see that happening anytime in the near future.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a small percentage. I don't know if it could be something to look into.
Yeah, we would unfortunately be at the
Way-
worst possible time to do that. So
Yeah, I know,
But
it's a good idea. So
but just looking.
I mean,
I know you
did fold this
we,
spring in.
like my work, we have a card and then we get so much off a gallon. So if we had, like a fleet card, so we get so much off a gallon,
Oh, like your Hy-Vee card?
Yeah,
Where you have
yeah,
the-
yeah.
The
But I
fuel
mean,
saver, fuel saver.
We're
card.
a little bit challenged from a location standpoint, just
right,
because
well, that's what I'm just
the
saying.
ones that have
those-
got those cool deals aren't here.
Well, I know, but
But they are up in Austin every day.
Yeah.
But if you went to Freeborn, Mauer, or the co-op and tell them what, we
Right.
buy a ton of fuel from them, you'd think they could. do
Offer something like
something,
that.
I don't
Or
know,
if you're booking your fuel, you don't have to go through Freeport Co-op.
True.
And then they no longer have a monopoly on us.
but they also are in town here.
I know, you wanna support town.
Right.
But that's just this one, I mean, they're still a big thing. There's local people that deliver fuel,
Well, I know,
so they'll still be supporting local, I mean, it's just something to,
And we bid it out monthly at the city and it's like between Bodine and purchase fuel, Bodine and Freeport usually.
yeah, I mean, they're still gonna be the one, but it might make them a little bit more competitive when they realize they don't have the monopoly on the school,
Yeah, well, and
if they're looking at fuel prices or booking out prices.
some schools have done RFPs on fuel too, so we can look at doing that.
I don't know.
A request for proposals.
Oh.
To where they actually have to say, this is what it's gonna be, or sometimes how that presents itself is, it's this many cents off of the, off of whatever the sticker price is.
So do we actually belong to the co-op?
Yeah, we get patronage and we get refund checks, and
Okay,
we've got,
so there are ways.
I think about
There's-
$2,500 back this year.
I just am not
Oh,
sure, so
okay.
it's like.
How much?
I
2,500?
think 2,500.
Okay.
They did a big retirement of some old years.
Yeah.
Cleaned up their books a little.
So, yeah, I mean,
Okay. So we are getting some, and
Yeah,
then I might be able, I'm be booking fuel from them. Still. Get a better percentage of.
let's say we should be generating quite a bit of patronage right now.
Right. Okay, sorry, I
Nope,
went off
No, you're
topic.
fine, you're fine. So this is designed to give you the big picture. And if you see something that you want to talk more about the small picture, like fuel, let's do it. So,
Do we need to clear off that right side?
that's not on my screen. It's on a monitor.
I know, for them.
Corey, can you maybe minimize the? Well, the rest of us could just walk past you and do it.
Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, so our biggest fund balance category is unassigned. All right, so that's the one that's on top here. We actually are gonna go backwards a little bit on our unassigned this year in terms of our percentage of expenditures. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that we are adding expenditures with all these federal grants. So when you make your expenditure number bigger, 15% of that is a bigger number than it would have been without those extra expenditures. So to some extent, that's what you're seeing. What you can see there, if you look at our July 1, 2021, we were at 15.59%. So we're taking a couple steps back down to 12.46. Honestly, I'm still very happy with 12.46. And realistically, some of those grants won't all get spent out by June 30th, but I've got them in the budget, just in case they do. Some of the stuff we're doing, some of these field trips and summer classes, maybe they're on this or that side of June 30th. It's in the summer either way, so depending on when some of those land, we might be further under budget than what we are in some other years. But that's one factor that's going on there. The fuel cost is another big one. The other thing, we split 6th grade this year, so that was basically came right out of that unassigned fund balance line. So, but that's why we have fund balance. Yeah, when we were at 4% fund balance and we got to add a teacher, we are now at 0, if that happens. So that's kind of the idea. It helps us be able to react appropriately and move ahead as necessary. So Working our way down a little bit, another bigger item there is basic skills. You'll hear us talk about compensatory revenue. I've got our nurse in that territory and our social worker in there. And most of our gen ed paras, I'm coding there, so I kind of look at that as extra, so there are schools our size that don't have a school nurse, which is honestly kind of scary, but we're fortunate to have Barb, so that's a good place for that. We generate that money on a site by site basis. So the elementary generates a pot and the secondary generates a pot. We also have to set aside some of it for our English language learners. That runs through that same line item. So that's one where realistically, in order to do anything at all, we spend more money on EL than with the money that comes in specifically to that line. So there's a little bit of give and take, but they have the statute written to where they want us to like bring in 100,000 for this site and spend it on that site. And I find that to be impossible. So that's just doesn't work that way. One other thing I've kind of pushed into that line is all of our various softwares that we use that are supporting our teachers, be it IXL or FastBridge or there's a MyMath.
I was like, with going on with the curriculum.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those pieces, and that's $25,000 I think we spend by the time it's all said and done on those different pieces. Another one I'll touch on here from the top is long-term facilities maintenance. We've been growing this fund balance for a couple of years, which has been great because we were in the hole for a while. This year we had the caulking project, so that took a pretty good bite out of that number. But honestly, that's what it's there for. So when I look at that number, I'm looking ahead at HVAC units and roof and tuck pointing. And those are our big hits. In the meantime, we got a water heater that we're going to replace. Yeah, so we may have some of those.
Break outside.
I just answered
Oh,
that.
Fair enough. When they talk about it generally, the term that we use is building envelope. So what keeps the whole place closed up, whether that's brick or it's rubber gaskets or whatever the heck it ends up being on a building by building basis. But I see those are the big ones we got to worry about. But
And on that, we did, with the water heater, the one over here went out. So the entire wall, they don't have any hot water bathrooms. So we got one quote, and then we ended up asking another company to come in, and they're like, you don't need a 100-gallon tank for what you guys use. So they went down to the 60-gallon, which the cost savings about $4,000. So
They're expensive right now.
yeah, so but then again, like Bradley said, that's what it's there for, that fund.
and the important thing is we got a good chunk of revenue that comes in for that. Realistically, when it comes time to have one of those big things happen, we're probably going to issue a bond. And that bond, maybe it's only $350,000 or something, but we'll be able to spread that out over multiple years of that revenue coming in through both state aid and tax levies. So I don't like issuing bonds, but when you need a new roof, you do the bond. So doesn't make sense to save up for 20 years to buy a roof. You need the roof for those 20 years. So all right, scrolling down a little bit into some of our assigned funds. Some of this area is where it gets kind of fun for me to actually have enough money to do things and set things aside for specific purposes and not always have to try to suck every penny out of it and get that into the unassigned fund balance. So at year end for last year, we were able to set aside $200,000 for transportation. So basically, I've got set aside the next 2 school buses. Or, you know, like 6 vans, whatever happens first, you know, but we got a nice chunk set aside there. And if for some reason we keep going backwards with inflation, that's 200 grand that we've got available that we can flex for other purposes, so. So line under here for future ready, we took on a fiscal host arrangement for some career tech stuff that Ryan Stanley from Austin has been running. Haven't had to do much with it, but it's supposed to get spent out here by the end of the year, so that we got a nice chunk of money up front, and we sat on it through COVID basically. And now that he's got things clicking and he's doing classes and teaching stuff. And so we'll be paying out that money that we took in, so. I want to touch on gifts from private sources just a little bit. We got a, I think it came in either May or June of last year, but we got a donation from an estate. Shirley Pearl was her name. I don't know if anybody knows that name at all, but it just like fell out of the sky, basically. You know, the insurance company called us and said, hey, you're the beneficiary on this. What's that?
The 200 million.
That's what
We were hoping.
It ended up being, I think, 6 grand.
Yeah.
You know, so so if you're looking at that line item, and we've spent twice as much as what we brought in this year, that I've spent that out on some of the wish list items that we had. So we've done we got the risers for the choir room. There's a music cabinet.
Mhm.
There's we've made some progress on some percussion instruments
Mhm.
for band. There's a
Piano.
storage cabinet for art that we just got. So we've been basically, that money's gone, you know, but we're using it for good things. So
Oh, that's just really-
and hopefully, you know, I won't sometime at point find that this was a person that was like, library was her thing, and then I would feel kind of bad, you know, but they gave us no instructions whatsoever, nor any contact information for anybody to
Really?
talk to,
Oh,
so.
really?
We actually didn't think it was real at first.
Yeah.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is a
At first, it was a
scam.
scam, but,
The first
Did you give me your
stadium.
social security number?
yeah, one of the things on the wish list is an auditorium, so, you know, maybe it could have funded that, but.
No,
That'd be a small auditorium for 6 grand.
Anyway, so at the end of the day,
well, she got it right.
I'm projecting that our general fund will actually show a decline in fund balance of about 120,000. And I don't feel bad about that at all. So we've made a lot of investments in things, you know, and things that are gonna be here for a while that, you know, we're not buying pencils that are gone next year, you know, so you know, the other thing is we knocked out a couple of leases too, you know, over the course of the year, so it's been nice to not make an LED lease payment every month. And we bought our last copier.
Yep.
You know, so we've been able to do some of those things that are, you know, present as a hit to your fund balance, but it's a good thing. So
And we have that nurse grant was about 40 grand, and if we didn't spend it by the end of the month, we lose out on that, so.
yeah, so we're spending 16 grand on air purifiers and another 15 grand on things that we can with some conscience say are kind of, you could relate that to COVID, you know, so Barb's gonna have some cool stuff in her office that hasn't been replaced in, you know, ever.
Mhm.
So it's a new fridge and a blanket warmer, and
She
we've got her
put
new cot.
every single piece of that equipment.
She felt
extremely-
She was,
I'm gonna come lay in her
just put it this
office when
way,
our blanket
she was
warmer.
stressing. She goes, I love shopping, but this is stressful.
I realized.
It's funny. I don't want to do. I'm like, "You're- Yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah, the visions. for
yeah,
there.
the other one too, she kind of came into us like, hat in hand and was like, I hate to ask, but can we get a new vision screener? And I'm like,
It's the kind that
yeah,
we have to share within the consortium right now,
Oh, yeah.
but it's the one that's like the machine that I'd hold
Put
it
it up to
here
your eyes.
and then it reads the eyes and it prints out exactly what it's reading. So then they go straight to the eye
I'm gonna
doctor.
stay away from
And-
that because I'm
so-
afraid with.
And the advantage of that, so if you have a kindergartner who doesn't know the letters,
Oh, exactly.
they could go up and fail the test, but you don't know if it's because they don't know letters or there's issues with eyes. This one,
Or we have
Amazing.
kids that
This is-
some days
we'll
pass it,
take
some
care of
days
it.
fail it. Why?
They want
Because
that.
that's what they want to do.
Right.
Yes,
Not with this thing.
that's, I mean, she's
so,
earned it. I don't
yeah.
care.
so anyway, she walked in and was like,
She didn't believe us.
can we do this?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes,
Are you kidding? What?
no, yes, we can do this, but, and now she's got like, I think, about $5,000 worth of grants
Mhm.
to help pay for it. It's like $8,000 total,
From the
and
Legion, I saw.
Mhm.
yeah, $4,000.
VFW.
VFW kicked in and Freeborn Mowers kicking in. So I think we got $5,000 covered, and we've got a piece of equipment that's gonna be
Good things.
amazing things, so,
And Lyle
And
only,
used,
Yeah, it's ours.
it will not be shared.
yeah.
unless we wanna be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Billable hours.
Just charge it, yeah. you could
They
charge
come
a
here,
rental
they
fee
can
for that.
fill out open enrollment back.
There you go.
Right. Want your eyes checked? Come on over.
Yeah, so we're showing this decline in fund balance. Honestly,
It's okay.
it's okay, yeah,
We're benefiting the school
Mhm.
and it's explainable.
Yeah.
You know?
and, yeah, and we're, I think we're actually headed for being down one FTE in our teaching staff next year as we shuffle up for the middle school alignment, so we were able to take that, add a teacher at the 6th grade and make it a one-time thing instead of having that forever, so
Mhm.
it's a good use of fund balance to get us through that hump, so. Any other general fund questions? I'll try to keep moving for Carl's sake. He gets tired when we talk about finance.
Mhm.
So I gave you the spoiler alert on this earlier, but food service, showing positive growth.
I would,
What-
we're talking about.
When I
Leave it
first
at
saw it,
Yeah.
I'd say,
I researched. Anyway, community ed. Community ed and ECFE, what we got there is pretty much par for the course. We still don't have much of an early childhood program. But at least we've got enough coding there that the state's not calling us and saying you can't get that money because you're not doing anything. So we've at least got something there. When we all have something else, other things go away, we can start doing things in that area and maybe make some progress, but school readiness is the other one down there. That one gave me a little heartburn when I was looking at it, and the biggest thing there is transportation. Dawn's not in here anymore, but our most expensive drivers do our preschool transportation, and that impacts it a lot. And fuel, holy buckets. So it's called a chargeback, but you take, here's all your costs, here's all your miles, and allocate the costs accordingly. So I'm hoping it'll come out a little better than what I've estimated, but we'll see where we get with that, but looks a little rough right now. So very encouraging to hear that preschool enrollment is looking at being full, because that's one of the things Julie struggled with this year,
Mhm.
was that we had scholarships that she wasn't able to fill because we didn't have enough kids that had the needs. So when we're full, we got them. It's no problem.
Mhm.
But when we, if we're running at 80% capacity or 75% capacity, doesn't work. So
Mhm. I don't know when
full
I'm-
is where we want to be.
Full.
So debt service, that's got our bond refunding, custodial funds, it's that one scholarship. overall fund balance looking to drop of 98,921. The grand total there, so. We're honestly we're in a good place. And we're still on the front end of our referendum years, so we've got a ways to go. That is inflationary, so. It actually it's not a set amount of inflation either. The state determines what the inflation will be on it, so. With everything else being inflation, we might get a little more levy revenue than what we projected. Which may make some other people upset, but will help the district anyway. So
Need a motion to approve the revised budget for fiscal year 2021-2022.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Opposed? Consider approval of food service management contract proposals.
all right, so I'll give you a little bit of the background here. So with your, I think it was mostly head nods at the time, but we did determine to go out and do take bids from contractors for food service. We had one contractor that came to visit us. We were concerned we wouldn't get any bids at all, and then about 2 days before the date we were set to have our meeting, we got one. Perfect. So then the proposals were due on May 4th, 2 weeks ago. And the proposal that we got was not workable. The cost per meal was more than what the feds pay to reimburse us for a meal. So the goal would be that we would raise our participation. But if we were to raise our participation, all we would be doing is lining the contractor's pockets, and we would still lose money on every single meal. So we won't be accepting that bid, but what we did to follow that up is there's another style of contract that we're able to do called a cost reimbursable contract. And I actually had a meeting with one of their VPs on yesterday. Yeah, that was yesterday. Oh my God. I worked for like 12 hours since then. But so we talked about that contract and what they could bring, how we're basically going to approach it here is they're going to kind of give us an addendum to the proposal that they gave us in the first place. So we'll be able to select option B, which will be this new one that actually will be workable. The benefits, the contract that they initially proposed on us was a fixed price per meal. The alternate cost reimbursable, basically, they put in place a staffing model, buy the food, and they bill us for all that. Well, on the fixed price, the only way you ever make any money as a district is if the differential between what you get reimbursed and what you pay the contractor lines up. And that's a much better deal for the contractor, because they can lock in that rate difference, and the more meals they serve, the more money they make. On a cost reimbursable contract, the more meals that are served, we make the money. So
And in the day that the lady came to visit us and we met with her, and then we walked and showed her the kitchen, she even recognized, she's like, that's the one you guys will want to do.
Yeah.
And when we put the proposal outline together, we were still too young, naive to know what the difference was, to be honest with you. So, and it really was, they even set it up in the proposal with the state to select the one we did.
Yeah.
It was weird how they kind of push you to
prefer
that. So
the state prefers it.
Mhm.
It doesn't work for a district like us where we were losing money.
Right.
So what the contract basically sets up for them is they're supposed to recreate our situation and tell us how much the cost would be. Well, I don't want them to recreate our situation. I want them to fix the staffing
Right.
model
Yeah.
and get the right mix of staff, the right mix of pay rates, the right supervision. I want them to order the right food, the right volumes of food, not waste food. use all the commodities that we get.
Mhm.
And oh, by the way, I wanted to do better food and then serve more meals. So if they can do all of that, then everybody's gonna win.
Mhm.
So,
And that's,
I'm sorry.
that's where we're headed though, is
So they will do all those things. I
Yeah.
mean, that they'll, okay,
that's
that's the plan.
a district our size. If with a contractor and it's set up in the way it needs to set up, should print money in food service. And we should be having the discussion of, well, we made $30,000 this year. The state's gonna call us and tell us that we've got too much money in our food service. What are we gonna do? Well, let's buy the gold plated oven this year, so. What the next step here is that I'm gonna ask you to table this for tonight. And then we'll pick it back up at the next meeting and we should have the amended proposal from Taher, that's the contractor. And something that we can accept and actually look at and be like, okay, well, this can actually be a solution rather than what we've got right now, which is like, well, that would keep us doing exactly what we're doing right now. And,
Mhm.
but then the contractor would get plenty of money. So
Will the employees, kitchen staff be school district employees, or are they, with this revised model, then become their employees?
there are a lot of different ways to structure that. One of the choices would have been for our staff to stay our staff. Another choice would have been to say, we're cleaning house, there's, go find new people. The middle ground that they allowed us to check a box for was interview our staff and hire them if they're the right people for the job. And if they're not, they'll find other people. If they are, they'll hire them. So,
And those are still file employees. So if they don't get hired
Mhm.
with them, they are still under contract with us. It becomes a union situation there where they would.
they could bump
become,
into another position.
Be another position or move on their own.
Is Taher in another smaller school district like us?
Lots of them.
Mabel.
Right,
Mabel
but I
Canton
mean,
is one.
around who
Mabel
Mabel
Canton,
is?
Yeah,
Okay,
they have PEM.
I know
and
I've
they
seen it, yeah, it's,
Have been at Houston. I'm not sure if they still are.
Yeah. My mom worked with them. They were, when I was in school, that was the company, and my mom worked with them for 20 years. And
yeah,
spoke highly of them.
yeah,
The one thing she always said was, what she hated was the amount of food. That, the limitations, well, that comes from the government, not necessarily,
Right,
if
yeah.
it's only 3 nuggets, it has to be 3 nuggets, but. The idea that we talked with them about is. Yes, okay, if it's only 3 nuggets, what else can we add to it, and options and. So.
And
Pretty
instead
a la
of,
carte, yeah,
instead of the only option being the 3 nuggets,
yeah,
to have 3 nuggets or. Barbecue sandwich
Yeah.
or what, just there's all those different things
Yeah.
that are out there as. Good
And-
food that different kids will eat on different days.
Yeah.
mhm,
and the look that we have in there right now. And what it could look like is, it's, students walking in and maybe having a selection of. Salad bar that's in a plastic container, or cheeseburger or chicken sandwich. And it's kind of it's an art, and how many chicken sandwiches do you make that day, and then what happens at the end, but. This is a company that's doing this for years, so they have a
They have it
match shot
down,
idea,
yeah.
they have it down to a science in
Yeah.
a sense, so. And over time, they're gonna learn our school too, to,
Right.
be able to prepare that better.
And the kids will learn their food and know
mhm,
what they like.
Mhm.
yeah,
And they do,
Just to eat.
they also bring in where they'll bring in things like, hey, seniors, why don't you, they'll go, come down to the kitchen and do some taste testing and, just try some things and build that curiosity. Not necessarily that they actually are going to ever serve that here, but it draws students' interest in that.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I
So.
like the direction.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we'll end up doing here that's a little yuckier, is that we'd be eliminating our food service positions. Yeah,
the
that's
key part.
is action we have to take in order to get the job done.
Mhm.
again, we checked the box for them to be interviewed, and it very well could be that we have exactly the same food service staff working in there for a different company, still serving our kids. So, but with supervision that is helping them pick the right meals, prepare them better.
More efficiency.
Ordering,
Mhm.
ordering.
So supervision that the three of us cannot provide them.
Correct. Correct.
I need a motion to,
Or,
motion to
to
table.
table.
Motion to table that.
just need a motion to table this food service contract proposal.
Chris Subir, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider approval of gym basketball stanchions for the main gym.
So a little history on this one. So last month we approved the shot clocks that the State High School League is requiring us. And so at that meeting, we discussed about the stanchions and the age of them, the possible safety issues with increased, the age and everything. So Bill had, one of the proposal or one of the estimates. They ultimately met with Carl and he can explain further more, but and Bill, that couple of things, we only pulled one of them to come to you tonight. The other two were including the side baskets and updating those. I think we can pursue those. We kind of agreed we can pursue those later at if ever needed. I'll very honestly, I'm a little mixed on this because I think there's a need to a point for this, just for the concern for safety and all that stuff, but having 7,000, and on the budget, could we use that elsewhere? Absolutely, from an education standpoint, but
Planning to go to the Legion
Mhm.
and ask for a donation for this.
Right,
I'm hoping for half.
Even a portion.
Yeah.
A little bit better than nothing.
I don't, maybe they'll do it all,
Mhm.
but I thought $7,000.
kind of what we're in that,
Well, I
the
was
Jelly
thinking-
paid about 5, 6, so this is a little bit more, but obviously that was it 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Worst case scenario, we talked about this on the phone is, if that current one ever came out, the cables are probably not going to break. It's going to be coming through the walls.
I just.
So then we got a bigger issue and we're talking 30 grand, if not more. So that's worst case scenario, but this is actually a decent price. But I think if we can get, some kind of donation to help. I don't know how budget wise.
This would be a good use of I was just saying that we need a car wash at the end of the school day. Because my car needs to be washed. You love washing cars.
I'll pull through.
I have a community car wash, which basketball
So
players need.
I'm gonna need like the total bill for this, just.
Oh, that's it. This is,
Backside here.
so yeah, it's for the items and then also installation. We would still have ours to do what we need to
The only
do.
thing I didn't think we're gonna have, so we're getting everything, new backboards, but I believe those backboards that are on there are like when. Did you have square backboards? No?
I don't remember. I want to say probably not. They're
So
probably the
I'm
rounded ones.
gonna say when I was in school, those are from them, so I mean, but I think they wanna put everything together.
There is one of our baskets has been repaired multiple times over the last few years.
The rim.
But
I do have a little, I mean, there's quite a. I think we're gonna have some dunking this year, more than just wide.
Work on layups.
it goes through the hoop basket. Shot clock, Bradley.
You need to come to a game, Bradley.
We're fun to watch. I'm bragging, we're fun. But,
I'll get them out this year.
I just. I'm a
Sky,
little-
what is it? The NC State Sky? No, what was it?
Sky Ema,
No,
or,
Jamma Slam or whatever.
Five slam a jam.
Jamma, yeah. Lyle style.
I don't know if that's right, but anyways, we're upgrading with the clock. I just think it's. There's 60, what? 1957, do the math quick.
Yeah, that number.
65,
65 years.
365.
A lot of years old.
Old. So I think,
Are you saying that's original
yes,
to the previous building?
those stanchions are with the building. So,
Still make them like they used to.
no, well,
The next
Well,
I
one
don't,
not last
I
65.
don't believe these will last 65 years.
No, I don't.
Let's hold out for the ones that are gonna last 65. Come on.
They don't make those
I feel
anymore.
like the Legion will donate
Yeah,
nicely to
yeah,
this.
I would think.
And that could be contingent on, I mean, the bill did say we do, he was kind of holding off on confirming with the shock block until he kind of had ideas, so that we could coordinate that. That decision has to be made by the end of the month, otherwise the price goes up, so. So we will make that decision, he will confirm that with them in the next
So
week.
we'll
but-
want a motion to approve. But we'll continue with.
Could be contingent on, why are you looking at me like that?
I just said, if I get the whole thing,
Not really.
if I get the whole thing, can we get the lights?
I
Right?
mean, what's another couple extra?
I know, right?
It was only
How much?
$1,050 or
Work it,
whatever.
Carl.
I'll get a,
With a contract for staying coach. Or
I haven't signed a contract. I've been,
going to make them.
I've been negotiating.
Well,
I better get this, I better get the full,
go for it.
anyway.
I'll make a motion.
Make motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Bye.
I,
Opposed?
but I can't go until next month, so, no, I know,
So
but
money on it.
but that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm gonna, I really think they'll,
I do.
I do, I'm sure.
We're just
I
saying for
don't
something
think-
you don't want to.
Any school board member comments?
Nope, we have the
Oh,
approval
the
of
approval
Scott.
of- Oh, that's right. We pulled
Oh, yeah.
that. Pulled that one.
So I did expect this, and actually I told Corey if I was a board member, I would pull in this myself, so I
Oh.
expected this.
Oh.
So, and she can back that up.
Pull it for what you thought.
So
Oh, okay.
No, no.
I know the concerns. So one of the questions that was
Oh, okay.
Dave asked about Tarek and the driving. Okay, so he did miss the deadline about with the state. And part of the thing, he was extremely, literally the lady had a stamp in the hand and another worker said, no, we need this other form. And then that was the day that he had to have that in. So right now, Riverland, to make it reasonably fiscally responsible to have the class, they need 4. Currently, they have 3. 1 from us, a Southland in person, and from 1 from Austin. So if we were to find another person or
I just-
Billy to do, now there is, or Dave, so,
Chad.
or basketball coach.
Chadman, yeah, Chadman.
What parts do they have? Hey, I have my CDL already.
So,
Leave the class.
so anyway, to do that, I will do this. Now, it will, if he does that, that's time away from the job site here this summer. Even Scott has, in our interview, said, yes, I would go back and get my license as well. Okay, so that would be 4.
Oh, yeah.
That is gonna, now, in regards to Scott, now, we've had a 3rd person over the summer for years. So I know the concern is more for the bookends of both.
I guess what's Tarek doing now? What's Tarek doing now?
So he is helping at times in the lunchroom, but there have been some concerns that, well, I'm trying to be very careful with how I say, but Corey and I have raised some concerns on how essential that is. And truthfully, I think we are becoming more concerned about, we don't have an answer for that at this point. I'll be honest with you. That is, I know that should raise any concerns you guys have, raise your concerns, because I don't have the answer for that. And at
Why?
first, I think there was intention with the driving. He is driving.
Well, he's driving a van, right?
Yeah. But there are windows outside of that are like, I don't have a clear answer for you, and I think that's shame on me. I need to find that
Well,
answer for you guys. Not necessarily even for you, just what is he doing?
Right.
So. So
So what hours are they work?
Yeah.
he and Derek, so Joel is 6 to 2.
Is Joel back full
Yes.
time?
Yes.
He can work.
Yep.
Okay,
And part of that is we did transition Tarek back slowly to, we just never put him back to his original 2:30 to,
so he
Two to
comes in
10.
earlier then?
yes,
So he's coming in at noon?
9:30. Because of, and he leaves at 2:30 to, for van, he comes back,
2:30 to 3:45 in
Yeah.
van.
so.
Say that again?
From about 2:30 to 3:45, he's doing Bill's route. so he
Okay.
can't drive.
So
Right.
he,
For about
he
an
does like
hour-ish.
5 hours of custodial work a day, or is that? And then driving
It's about
after
right,
that, or?
So is he able to do his night stuff with people here?
That has been one of the ask that question one more time.
Is he able to do his night work during the time he is here?
Some of it he is.
Okay.
But some of it is when students are not in the building, it's obvious, cleaning rooms, that's
Right.
what the prime time. That takes place at 3 to 6. So. And Melvin has been filling in some of those times to, because I know the teachers still have some concerns about getting it done. So
So is Melvin still our sub?
he is our sub, but he is
Yeah.
not,
And very little.
yeah,
Okay, that's all right though.
So-
Need a sub.
I know. And he loved helping out. So one of the things it could be is we could have two, I mean, I don't know how you may know this, could we approve, there's a 90-day window for Scott, which takes us to, in the contract, it's until August 9th, I believe is the 90th day.
I don't have a problem with hiring Scott. My problem is how we make sure it all.
They're
Everybody's jobs.
Doing
are delineated
something.
out and they're actually being productive
Mhm.
hours.
Yes, that's what I'm worried
Yeah.
about.
So I mean, I could see, I mean, if you get a bus license,
Then
Then it's a no-brainer, honestly.
and even Scott too.
Yep.
Can we push them all to get their bus?
Right.
I don't think Joe can.
I don't-
Joel,
I don't think-
No, but
Medically
not.
not,
but-
yeah.
So my,
No.
you know,
The
what if,
other-
what if we have two, or let's say, two people after school,
Oh,
then someone would have to be here late.
Yes,
Or
that
do we
is,
want someone here late.
that is what I,
I don't know.
yeah, because during basketball games, having someone late
Mhm.
to be the official closeout, so Bill or I or Corey or whoever's here as supervisor, isn't that responsibility placed on
Right.
us. But other days,
but you know what? Scott could come in because he lives in town here.
Right.
Game night, he just works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
If
right.
he would be, yeah.
you
but
know,
that
whatever,
could be something, the 3 to 7.
Hours.
Well, depends on what you put in the contract.
Well, what
Right.
he's saying is.
I don't know.
He
What
could
you
work
was 40, but-
6 to 7. Or
Right,
8
would
to 8:30
Scott
to
be okay with
9.
having a bit
lock
of
up
a
and get out.
flexible schedule?
Yeah.
You know, depending on event nights and
Yeah.
things like that.
I don't know.
Not have it be 7 hours straight in order to
Not
make that
having a
happen.
set,
Yeah. But I think having, if it's from 3 to 7, 2 people here to complete the work, they can get it done. And they both can leave at 7.
right,
Right.
Right.
I don't know, I just. And then another kind of, so I see we mowed lawn, but we left the football field. I don't know if that. Bill's not gonna do anything with that football field.
No.
So someone needs to mow the football field.
They did one time last week, but with the events going on this week with field day, that's why they held off. But
I get, but I mean,
they will be, that will all be taken care of.
you know, I don't know when Bill's gonna be back full, whatever, but
Bill stated to me, he's like, I don't see myself being able to do a lot of that stuff for a while.
right, so who's gonna paint the field and.
yeah,
mow
who's
the
gonna do
field
all
and-
that, yeah.
Well, in their job description.
I
is
know
theirs.
it.
So, so it'd be one of those, the 3 of them.
Do you think that it might be of benefit to be very specific to each one, what their role is to do? So that way they know we can't have expectations for someone if they don't even know what our expectations are. And to just say blanketly, this is the job description, okay, but, okay, so whose turn is it? And is that, whereas if you say, you will do on these 3 nights, this is your job. You will do on these 3 nights. This is your job. And, then that way, I hate using the app word, right? Fair. That way it's fair.
Well, I think last year during,
And clear. Whichever.
last year, and that's a great point, because last year when we sat down with them and going through all the COVID protocols, that was something that I think they even appreciated, being very clear with some of the stuff. And I think this year, I think that just got lost in the shuffle of everything else. So, but you're right. I think that is something very, that is
I
important.
think our building probably needs a part, 2 is probably not enough, but 3 is too many.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I think people would argue that. Would you agree with that, Dave?
There you go.
Yeah, I know.
Three too
Not
many.
not really, just
3 too
we
many.
got.
I know.
3 full-time.
3 full-time would be, I think,
Would be too many.
Yeah.
I know.
Our building, I would expect it to look immaculate at all times.
have 3
I'll
full-time.
figure out
yes.
how
Oh, yeah.
We have
Yeah.
not, yeah, but we have a kid lick a window,
Yeah.
because that happens. I wanna
Even
clean up and
2
then
and a
walk away.
half, our building should.
And
look
2 have been clean
immaculate.
already.
Yeah,
Just gonna have the right 2 and a half.
yes.
But I think, now is a good time bringing Scott on too. This is a good opportunity and a good time to lay out those
Yes.
expectations and,
Because then it's not just for him, it's for
It's
all
Yep.
3.
right.
And you're very specific, whereas before it may have felt attacking or kind of the backhandedness of it, which it really never was, but there needs to be clarity, I think, for everyone involved,
Yes.
even as a supervisor, so that way they have something that everyone deserves. We call them 360s, annual reviews.
Yeah.
Everyone
Well,
deserves that.
and just, specific things that, what was helpful is when we sat down, even Barb was included last year, was like, okay, you're gonna go around with that sprayer at this time of the day. And they were doing that. And I don't, it hasn't been as much of that this year. And I think that's, that we need to have that conversation saying,
A revisit.
what are you, different times of the day, where should I find you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because really, they should have a pretty set
Yes.
schedule as to where they're at.
Their
at
routine.
We were
Yeah,
just
I
talking, how much maintenance stuff are they doing?
that is where Tarek, I think, brings a lot of
I mean,
some of the stuff he is able to do a lot of that stuff.
we were just, like, the filters.
Yeah, I don't know, if, like Predictive does some of that stuff.
Predictive, that the HVAC, the heat predictive does majority of that stuff, but some of the other maintenance, things break or whatever, that is Terry, he's good at that.
But we have someone come take our snowboarder off for us.
Yeah.
Well, what? Tarek couldn't do something, and he seems pretty handy. I mean, why are we?
Honestly, I don't even, that,
It's one of the
I don't have a
things-
lot of knowledge on that one,
It's one of the things that I route to you for approval every time.
I know.
Because I don't want it to just be me
But-
saying it.
so it's,
Is there things that they could do that they just choose not to do?
I believe that happens.
So I'm just challenging you to be more.
Okay.
You have a lot of, and
Well-
babysitting, that stuff is probably the least things I want you to be doing, but, if it costs.
If you start out now and you have to babysit for a year or 2, in the long run,
Well,
you won't.
I guess what my point is I've heard that complaint, we don't have enough help for this school building. Well, we just gave you that
Yeah.
help. So
Now
some,
let's see it actually be fruitful. Yep.
this is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Right?
And she said the word babysit. There are times where that's how it feels for the 2 of us, and not just them. I'm just saying.
Oh, I
other things.
know, I know.
And I think by what's possibly in the future,
Yes.
that will remove a good chunk of some of that stuff
The
from our
better
plate.
term would be
But-
close supervision.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
It's more the adult. what
I
you
know,
do. You never babysit adults, you're closely supervised.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I'm at is, I've heard the custodial say, we need more help. for many,
now
many
we've,
years.
now we've given it,
Now we're giving it, so I would like to see more,
make it worth it,
right,
make the decision worth it.
if you
yeah.
need 2 people to help you change a snowboard, now you have 3,
Well, and I mean,
you know,
we've talked a lot about the outdoor
well, right.
maintenance of our,
Yeah.
gardens. That's part of
Yes, it is.
the
And
job.
and that is something-
Inside and outside,
The
The,
grounds.
Yes,
the grounds and
Building and
maintenance.
grounds.
I mean,
if I had to do you would never find me, you'd be mad that I wasn't sleeping, I'd be mowing lawn, like,
Every day.
yeah, I'd be out there.
and I,
That has to be-
and we've talked about with this, in the strategic plan about the job descriptions. I don't know if they've actually, those were made in 2014, I believe, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's one of the big things. We both have things this summer we're gonna kind of focus on.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that I'm gonna be spending time.
I would
just
guess,
Because that is, and it's not just them, it's across the board, like.
Right.
When we have staff members say, well, I didn't know that. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, how do you not know that? And we've had that, and when that's happening too many times, like, okay, then let's review that. And so
I
going
guess
through
that's
and,
where I'm at is we're helping them out, so now it's,
Mhm.
I better not drive by and see weeds in the sign,
right.
Yep.
to be pretty honest.
I 100% with you on that one, because it,
When Corey's pulling the weeds, my brand new principal that we just hired is pulling the weeds. That's
Mhm.
embarrassing.
I've had to do it every year.
Yep.
since
I know
this
you
has
have.
gone in.
Yeah, did I not do a good enough job for
I
you?
mean,
You did a great
It's just
job,
been-
but I didn't hire you to pull weeds.
Right,
Right.
there are so many other things that.
But
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
You bring to the
paying you
table.
way too much
That's
to
just
pull
a-
weeds.
My dad wouldn't let me mow the lawn. I was only allowed to pull weeds.
Well,
so there's a
Well, then
talent.
Skill set.
Here's, you gotta get the root too.
Well trained.
yes.
but it just looks bad when,
It does,
and
it
we're
does.
sitting here talking about making some improvements to our grounds. Well, we can't invest any money into improving anything if it's not gonna get taken care
100%,
of.
yep.
It's just a waste of
Yep.
money.
And if we talk about the trees along that side, and then if you're gonna have to start watering grass all summer, to
Yep.
make sure that that
Yeah,
takes
I
root.
mean,
If
And
it's a
then
dry
you're gonna-
summer, you got the football fields.
Yep.
you got-
So it means there's plenty.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah, that is
What did you
exactly
say?
it.
Take pride in it.
yeah.
Well, and
Take pride in
I,
your job, take pride in.
not that I want this to be a review of them,
It's a
but
direct reflection.
we've utilized that term. In some aspects, we've seen that. But
Because there
in some
was a lot
aspects
of
of it.
improvement. We tend to bash pretty regularly.
Yeah.
The same groups, not bash, but be harsh.
Yeah.
And we have seen some improvement
Yeah.
in some efforts. There's still a long way to go,
Mhm.
but at least to say that those efforts have been noticed. To see that improvement, so we know that they're capable of it.
Yep.
So we just want the school and for them to be the best possible it can be.
Agreed.
So, is-
Good.
so is Joel, is he a head custodian?
no,
That's his
He's
title.
not, so,
he's the lead custodian. It's a
Head
daytime.
custodian is the title in the union.
well, I'm just trying to pull some responsibility from you guys. Can you delegate him to
I was thinking the exact same thing.
To
as
say,
Krista was
hey,
talking about laying out expectations.
deal with his,
It's
deal
not
with
how
his
it's-
crew?
that's-
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not how it's listed in the
Yeah,
job
you're
description. though.
right.
That's the
I
hard
mean, you
part.
gotta try to
When you're saying
delegate.
a
but-
head versus.
Kinda
is
like
that
your
still
head
also
cook,
Meaning the
your-
supervisor,
Right.
You know.
or just the one with the most seniority.
In the job description, it's more of the latter on that
The
one.
one that gets paid 75 cents more an hour.
That just means seniority. So then it's not a supervisory role. And is that something that then you would want to put into his job description within like that union type of contract? But then there's more responsibility and then there's higher expectations of him.
Then
And is
get him
that
out of the
something that,
union.
Then you don't belong here if you can't handle it.
well, but I mean,
Kind
is
of
that
been a
something that
motto
he?
lately.
I'm just thinking of specifically with all this recent medical and, is that really something?
Well, interesting enough,
Want him as
because
a
when
supervisor.
I look at it from a military standpoint, that I go to, there should be almost like I go to the leadership team for the teachers. Those are the ones we communicate a lot with. We go to Sandy with, and she's not a technically, that one's marked as head cook. But I don't think in the job description, I don't think it actually uses that word either. So I like the idea of having someone, one person I speak to,
Your go-to.
In
Right.
those departments.
and that person is responsible,
You need to have.
who
that
rolls
person.
downhill in a sense, and
Mhm.
that is not in the culture of what, in my 5 years, it hasn't been the culture of that. So if that's something, I don't know, that would be a negotiable thing that,
And we
Yeah,
started
within
to
that-
apply for it, and we have to interview them.
that we, that does result in possibly an increase, does that increase, or they may look for an increase in
Be a
pay
wage
too.
increase, but as Corey said, that's a position that you interview for.
We could have that
I
discussion.
just think you guys have a lot on your plate and you need somebody there that you can just say, hey,
They take care of it.
take care of it.
Yeah.
Keep them straight.
Maybe this
They
new
know
guy
where
is
it's
the
at.
guy.
Maybe we should take action on whether we're gonna hire him or not.
Yes. I think-
So,
I mean,
We can look at that and have that, and we can,
Since he's working over there, right to approve him.
Literally in the building.
So you're this-
Is he?
I don't know.
no,
I haven't seen him in a while.
No, I think he was working.
He was actually acting.
He was working.
When I found him, floors were being swept.
I make a motion to accept Scott Ellis. as,
I'll
part-time.
second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're gonna go through and make sure that there's specific expectations for the summer.
that's a big part of what you're all. So,
I'm thinking them tomorrow.
with obviously,
Window lookers?
I might just go look at.
I'm just.
Really? Because you wanna be out for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, wait 2 weeks and then
Yeah.
lick away.
Like away.
Sure, whatever it takes.
What is it, June,
Uh,
July, you're pretty much not here.
Yeah.
correct? June 15th, go ahead.
Start licking.
Lick away.
Anyone's gonna drive by like. "Oh, shit."
No.
Swing away.
I had a picture of Kate doing that when she was about a year.
All right,
Board member comments?
So good.
Motion to,
Board member.
No.
Anyone have any?
board member comments? None?
I had a couple actually, sorry. Okay, so we probably should get on Jamie's evaluation this summer, superintendent evaluation, so we'll work on that.
On that.
I know, yeah, no, totally, that's fine. And then Corey, I just wanted to thank you for emailing out your little newsletter that you had this last month. That was awesome. You do a really great job on that. So
Sorry, I did not send it out to all year long. It went out to everyone else, like elementary. middle.
yeah, no, but because there was so much going on this month, that it was nice to see that. So it was good. So thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for doing that. Also, thank you to Krista, especially you too with the community ed stuff. And it is so cool to see that stuff happening. And it's so cool to see the things the teachers have lined up for the summer. And that stuff is
Mhm.
just, it's awesome.
Mhm.
They're so excited about it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
so cool.
it's very nice.
And we did, it was one teacher who stepped up and volunteered to put all that together.
Really,
And
yeah.
collect all the
Kudos to
forms.
them.
Thank you,
because-
because
Yeah.
that, it
Wow.
was exciting to just
Yeah.
look at those options. I'm like, oh, I wish I was a student. This is
I
so
know.
cool.
You know, like
Fun.
fourth grade, third, and fourth grade, or maybe it's just fourth grade,
So
they're
cool.
going to see Diary of a Wimpy Kid
Mhm.
and tapping into those same financial
Yeah.
resources.
Yep.
Free up in the city, so it's a
Yeah.
Minnesota Children's Theater, so
Oh,
real professionals putting on
Yeah,
that, so I mean, it's
so-
gonna be just.
Only thing you have to do
awesome.
is pack a lunch.
Matthew was
Yeah.
very excited. He's
That's
like, Mom, you have to sign
I
this,
hope
and I
that-
need to take it back to school
good.
tomorrow.
I hope
You
it's a
know,
good
Oh, no, we're gonna
response.
be
I really
gone.
hope so.
It's like, but yes, I mean, just
Very good.
kudos to everyone really stepping up. It's like, oh, we have money to spend. Sweet.
Let's do it.
You know, I wanna go.
And also thank you to the staff who helped make prom a good event. That was very nice. Carl, I think the kids had a good evening, right?
Oh, yeah,
I
that
know.
place was awesome.
So
Nothing
the
but-
after prom, you guys,
man.
seriously,
awesome.
if,
Yeah, we're-
if you
yeah.
are looking for something to do in the cities, for a place to go, you've got to go to this place, the Borough in
Oakdale.
Oakdale, but they have one in
That's
Virginia
awesome.
too.
So go there.
It's so good.
Like
The state or the city?
The what?
The state
Virginia?
Arcade, X.
Oh, no, the city.
Rope-
Ah,
Oh.
yeah, The city,
And it-
not the
well,
state.
Oh, yeah, it was a fun
Laser
place.
tag.
It was a
Right?
fun
Did you
place.
think it was great?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the kids got bored. I think,
Just take a
I mean,
family
it
in there
had
and let them.
So much stuff, mini golf, axe
yeah.
throwing, rope
Great
sports,
place.
go-karts, laser tag, tons of video games,
Yeah.
arcade
and
games,
that were free. You
pinball.
just, you have a car
I
and you
mean,
swipe it.
oh,
I played some Jurassic
Yeah.
Park thing for like
and they had two, I
half
mean,
an hour.
if you were there during normal
Just kept on
hours, it's a
going, you know?
restaurant and they have two huge bars. Like, so really, if you had kids that could just entertain themselves, as a parent, you could sit down and
Yeah,
eat
no,
and
it
have
was-
some drinks
Drink
while your
away.
kid, it was.
Is it like
awesome.
you
It was
pay
awesome.
one admission and you get to do everything?
You see, that I don't know the,
Yeah, that's
because
what-
they just contracted with us, so it was,
Okay.
you know,
I don't know, it was-
$55 a kid is what it was for us, and they fed us too, and unlimited
That's
pop.
a
Yeah.
heck of a
And the
deal.
bar is
Yeah.
kind of out in the middle, so you can see
Right.
around, you
Yeah.
can keep
Yeah.
track of your kids. Yeah, that was a great place.
We were
Wow.
lucky, but yeah, it was phenomenal, you guys, so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So we pulled them in at 2 to give out their prizes.
Yep.
And they didn't seem to like, oh,
Yeah,
but I think once they stopped doing stuff, they got tired.
tired, yeah,
Cause on the bus ride home, it was
quiet,
quiet.
but no, it was great, so.
Yeah.
I want to thank
Awesome.
Carrie for
And
putting. all
thank
that
you for- yeah,
together.
thank you
That
for
was
your
awesome.
Carrie did awesome.
It was fun. I
Oh,
mean, it
you
was
did-
a lot of,
you
it
did
was
a
a
lot-
lot
you
of
did a good
work.
job
It
at
was
it.
a lot of
Yeah.
work, but
Seriously.
it was fun.
That was
So.
amazing.
I think prom itself was good.
Yeah,
I-
yep,
The kids were really, I'm just impressed how
Yeah, they,
behaved.
yeah.
They're really good kids.
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
They just.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was good.
good time. So, thank you. Yeah, that's it. That's all I have.
His future meetings, calendar updates, we got a graduation, May 27th at 7.
Are we all sitting up on stage? That's like
I'll be there.
normal?
You have spotlights on you this year.
Get your speeches ready.
Actually,
Might have to
Chad,
fill it
you
for
have a
me.
speech this year.
Am I sure?
Yeah, as the new chair.
No,
Just kidding.
Chad's like, I think I.
I'm all right. I don't.
That was great though.
Don't bother me. You write it for me, I'll read it. Just let me read it at a time.
Back in, 2, 3, 4 years ago,
Sorry.
they used to have the student, the president, class president, kind of give it like welcome, like,
Ooh.
2, 3 sentences and then introduce. I know, I don't know.
We don't have,
This week.
Okay,
well, we have a,
Student council president.
well, I
but
don't.
yeah.
I just used to like that they get up and then they got to introduce the salutatorian or whichever one goes. I don't
Since
know.
I've been here, I've
fine.
introduced to this
If
salutatorian
you
and
want to do that, that's
Yeah.
great.
try to make it through that night.
Yeah, I know.
Good luck on that.
We'll talk.
So I have a question. You gonna hand your son his diploma?
We actually talked about that today and I thought about maybe starting out
Yeah.
because, you know,
Yeah.
a few of those kids and then you taking over after.
What do you want to do?
Mhm.
I'll look at the list, the
And then
order
Corey
and
will just introduce.
the names, yeah.
Mhm.
And then you'll go back if you're able to.
Whatever you're- yeah, well,
If
He's
you-
not
look at-
able to right
We'll
now.
have Kleenex for you.
I get it.
He's getting
I've been
pumped
through
right
it
now.
twice,
Yeah.
it's hard.
Well, like I may have said, it's that I've been working on the speech and
Oof, I can't imagine.
it's the hardest one I've ever put together, so.
Yeah,
Because I'm trying not to make it about him, obviously,
Right.
it's about everybody, but. So using that kind of a different perspective, but
Yeah,
than I
no,
usually do, but.
yeah.
so.
No,
But I have been told that Stranger Things opens that night or that day, so the kids need to, they want to go home and watch it.
yes.
And Maverick comes out that day too, so,
Oh, Top Gun?
so
Ah,
if the theaters, the show starts at 9:30, maybe I can run it.
We're not doing the parade?
No.
Okay.
They had no interest in that.
Okay, that's fine.
Would you like me to break it to you now that Evan actually requested I hand him his diploma? Just kidding. Man, sorry, you don't hang out.
He's not even,
late at
I
night.
doubt that even would even remote, because he's not even, I don't think that's even comprehended.
No,
Right, yeah.
I just
He's just old school
remember
solution.
Kendall practicing, I was sitting, I was off that day, so I came in, and sat there. And she was walking up, she's all smiles, then we kind of met eyes.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah,
tough
that was
part
tough.
out there.
It was like,
Mhm.
she all of a sudden realized it was real,
Hmm.
that this is happening. you know,
Yeah.
and it's hard.
Could I request that someone fill Melly in on what to
Oh.
expect for that? Because this will be her first
Oh,
graduation.
I'll see her. With my
Just so she
softball.
knows like
Yeah.
what to wear, what time to show up.
yeah.
And we'll be down, so meet down in the concessions area somewhere. We'll let the
Yeah.
flowers. The students actually made the flowers. They
Yeah,
look
I
really
saw
nice.
that.
So we would walk in, but the staff will actually
Oh,
walk, there'll be a between the bleachers and then the chairs. So we'll walk through them and
sweet.
walk out.
Are we walking up like we did last?
Yep.
Since you've been here?
The center.
We just walk out in front of them and then the students walk out after that.
See, this is serious.
Motion adjourned.
I get so
Huh?
smart.
Yeah, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Since I'm standing
All
up already.
all in favor?
All right,
Opposed?
all right, I'm going home.